You've been called difficult, distant, oversensitive. Maybe people say you think too much or you are just too much. The truth is, what people see on the surface isn't always the full story. Psychologists have a different word for this, and it might explain more than you think. In this video, we're going inside 10 habits that reveal an extremely high IQ, not the version society celebrates, but the version that actually exists. And by habit 8, you're going to understand something about yourself that nobody ever had the language to explain. Think back to the last time you tried to explain something that felt completely obvious to you, something you could see clearly, and the person across from you just stared back, blank, maybe a little impatient. You smiled, you moved on, but something quietly retreated inside you. That moment, that specific, exhausting moment, is one of the most common experiences reported by people with extremely high IQs. Not arrogance, not superiority, just the steady, grinding loneliness of a mind that moves differently from everyone around it. The worst part, most of them never connect that experience to intelligence. They connect it to something being wrong with them. Here's what psychology actually says. Intelligence doesn't look like certainty. It doesn't look like always having the answer or commanding every room. According to research on the Dunning-Kruger effect, the more someone genuinely knows, the more aware they become of how much they don't know. Real intelligence expands your sense of complexity. It doesn't shrink it, which means the most intelligent people in the room are often the quietest, the most uncertain, and the most frequently misread. The first habit is observing more than speaking. While a conversation is happening, they are tracking something underneath it, the shift in someone's tone, the contradiction between what a person says and what their body is doing, the assumption buried inside a question nobody thought to question. They are not being cold, they are still collecting. The result is that when they do finally speak, it cuts to something real. But by then, most people have already decided they are aloof, or uninterested, or just a little strange. What looks like social distance is usually a mind that needs more information before it commits to a conclusion. The second habit is being comfortable saying, "I don't know." This sounds simple until you realize how rare it actually is. The Dunning-Kruger research found that people with less knowledge tend to overestimate their understanding, while those with greater knowledge become increasingly aware of complexity. Highly intelligent people are not less confident, they are more honest. Their confidence comes from being willing to revise, not from pretending to be certain. The third habit is questioning things most people simply accept. Not to be difficult, not to argue, their minds are genuinely unsatisfied by surface answers. Why does this rule exist? What evidence actually supports this? Where did this belief come from? Most people stop at the answer. Highly intelligent people keep digging toward the source, because the source is where the real information lives. The fourth habit is getting bored in ways that are genuinely hard to live with. Not the boredom of having nothing to do, the boredom of understanding how something works before it is finished. The conversation becomes predictable 3 sentences in. The task is already solved in their head before their hands finish it. Their nervous system is already somewhere else. Psychologist Ackerman's research links high cognitive ability with a deep, almost compulsive need for novelty and complexity. When that need is not met, the brain does not quietly wait. It manufactures problems just to have something to work on. This is why highly intelligent people are so often called restless or difficult to manage. The environment is not complex enough for the mind inside it. The fifth habit is learning without being told to. Nobody has to assign it. Curiosity does all the work. They read things they do not need to read. They disappear into research rabbit holes because one interesting fact led to another. For them, learning does not feel like a task. It feels like breathing, and it never really stops long after formal education ends. The sixth habit is living almost entirely inside their own heads. Their external life can look completely ordinary, but internally, something is almost always happening. Ideas connect to memories. Memories connect to questions. One conversation can trigger hours of private reflection. This is why solitude feels energizing rather than lonely. It gives the mind room to move, and highly intelligent minds need a great deal of room. The seventh habit is changing their minds when the evidence changes. Most people treat changing their opinion as losing. Highly intelligent people treat beliefs as working theories, always provisional, always open to revision. Their goal is not protecting their ego. Their goal is getting closer to what is actually true. Sometimes that means publicly admitting they were wrong, and they do it anyway. The eighth habit is overthinking small decisions. This is where high intelligence becomes genuinely exhausting to live with. Every option branches into possibilities. Every possibility has consequences. What takes most people 30 seconds takes them 20 minutes. Not because they are incapable, but because their mind runs simulations nobody asked it to run. The same mental machinery that solves complex problems makes ordinary choices quietly brutal, and from the outside it looks exactly like weakness. The ninth habit is talking to themselves. Research on self-directed speech shows that verbalizing thoughts improves focus, memory, and problem-solving. Highly intelligent people often talk out loud because language helps them organize what is happening internally. They are not being strange, they are processing. Sometimes the fastest way to understand a thought is simply to hear it. And finally, the 10th habit, the one that quietly connects all the others, and the one that surprises people most. Highly intelligent people search for meaning over achievement. Society treats intelligence and success as the same thing. They are not. Highly intelligent people spend far more time asking why than asking how much. Why do people behave this way? Why does this system work like this? Why do we believe what we believe? Carol Dweck's research on cognitive flexibility shows that the most intellectually advanced people do not treat their beliefs as identities. They treat them as starting points, always moving, always questioning. Not because they are uncertain about who they are, because they care more about truth than comfort. That is the real portrait of high intelligence. Not the person with all the answers, the person who cannot stop asking better questions, even when it costs them something, even when everyone else has already moved on. If you recognized yourself somewhere in this video, in the silence, the restlessness, the overthinking, the strange loneliness of a mind that moves differently, do not dismiss it as a flaw. The traits that made you feel like you didn't quite fit were never evidence that something was wrong with you. They were evidence of how you were built. Which of these 10 habits has cost you the most? Tell me in the comments, because the people who answer that honestly are usually the most interesting ones in the room. Thank you for watching, and subscribe for more videos on psychology, human behavior, and the hidden patterns behind the way we think and feel.